Good
Good morning,
morning, everybody.
everyone.
Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I'm Lawrence
Uh-oh, Lawrence,
Winterman.
I lost you. I
Oh
can't hear
no.
you again. This
Oh,
is a
that's
weird
crazy.
phenomenon, but welcome to the Daily Whatever Show, everybody. It's Monday.
You need to
Leave and
drop.
come back.
You.
I need to leave and come back. Okay. Bye.
Oh,
Um,
StreamYard. Why have you cursed us so?
hold on a minute.
Okay, well, so it's just me and Arturo's hanging out in the green room. Dana will be back in a moment. I feel like I've been hit by a truck, so that's fun. And yeah, we're just gonna improvise for a couple minutes here, folks, because StreamYard is not playing nicely. All right, Dana is back. Can you hear me,
Oh,
Dana?
I can. That's the second time this has happened to us where I hear you backstage and then I join and only if I wonder if our guest Arturo were on, if I would hear him and not you again.
Well, what's interesting is I was chatting with him for a couple minutes before this, and apparently the image of me turned all green, and I had to drop and
Ooh.
come back and get the image back. So who knows?
Uh, Who knows? Good
Um,
morning, everybody.
right,
Welcome to,
we're here. Somehow we did it.
oh my God. The last thing we need is technology melting down. Well, I can't say I'm jet lagged because I flew in the same time zone, but just
You're tired from travel. I think
and
that's eminently allowed.
and late getting back. And you're not feeling so well today, I hear, Lawrence.
I kind of feel like I have been hit by a truck.
Oh
I am going to
no.
do my family remedy, which is go back to bed. I found
That's
for me, I don't know if this is true, but for anybody else, but really nothing makes me feel better than just getting more sleep. Like my body
listening to
really
your
does heal
body.
itself in sleep time. And if I get more sleep, I can usually kind of cut things off at the pass. But we'll see if that works
Oh,
today.
well, I'm so glad that you rallied for today, Lawrence. Even though I do want you to get better. So please rest. But it's been a hell of a weekend,
Yeah.
news-wise, and we haven't caught up at all on air or off air this weekend. And it was so interesting. Yesterday was travel day for me. But it midday, I saw that Mason, one of our wonderful whatever community members, had made this post, and I'm going to paraphrase you here, Mason. You wrote, "It's really quiet on lives today. Is everyone sad?" And said something just about feeling alone on a hard weekend, and tagged a few of us,
Mm.
asking if anyone was planning to go live. And I was one of the people that she tagged, and it was humbling. It was just really sweet. And so, in typical me fashion, I either arrive places like, oh my God, I'm late, like I did this morning, or I'm like way too early. So, we got to the airport 3 hours early, breezed through customs, and I had to see Christina's fucking face everywhere. It's all over LAX. But then I had time. And so I did go live yesterday, and so many people joined. And it was this just very community oriented, compassionate kind of vibe.
Hmm.
So I need my Lawrence today. I think a lot of people do too,
Yeah.
with
I
everything that's
also I think we
happened.
need our Arturo today. I think we've got kind of the perfect guest to ground us, and I know
We
Arturo is a man of emotion, and will have wise and probably outraged things to say. Yeah, I think we're all like I don't want to say this one is different because because I don't know, it's a white guy this
Murder's
time, and
always
so it's
bad.
different. Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, did you lose audio again?
No.
Oh, okay. Um, I I think I don't I'm not sure I can articulate it. I just think that the bald face, like we know they lie. We know they're liars. But the sheer magnitude of the lie about this guy. Like I don't think any of us could watch those videos and not be like I know that guy, right? Like
Yeah.
here's like the here's like the nice goofy guy from my apartment building who just likes to help people and, and is a nurse and, like
An
from my
ice,
apartment building.
an ICU nurse.
Right.
I'm
An
joining the
ICU
chat
nurse and,
for
uh,
veterans. I mean,
was literally just trying to help people across the road. We should bring Arturo in for this because we've already
we
dived into the main topic of the day. So,
we
Arturo,
Good
good
welcome.
morning.
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 Good
How's
morning,
everybody?
Arturo. When we booked this visit, it was a month ago. It was over Christmas
Yeah,
break. And we said, let's wait till late January because you'd just been on the show a few weeks before. And we were like, I wonder what the big news story will be that week. And like, could you, even for as great as our imaginations all are, and as awful as our expectations are of this administration, could you have imagined that we'd be here on January, what is it, 26th?
no, uh-uh.
Mhm.
You know, we all kind of saw what was coming with this administration with Project 2025, and
Hmm.
they made it. Heritage Foundation made it pretty clear this is what they wanted to do. I went at it with a lot of them on Twitter. The president of the oversight, whatever, at Heritage Foundation. And, I was posting a lot before this administration came into office, before the election, about the human cost of mass deportations.
Hmm.
And, we spent a lot of time talking about the economics, how bad it's going to hurt our economy, jobs, all these things. And we rarely talked about the human cost, right? What we're seeing. We're seeing migrants in detention centers that are overcrowded, uh, inadequate food supply, inadequate medical care, and no beds. People are sleeping on floors. I just saw a video this morning of a facility that's not even a detention facility. It's supposed to be a holding facility to hold migrants for, maybe a few hours before they get sent to a detention facility. And they're migrants being held there for days. And there are no beds in these facilities. It's basically like a back room in an office, and they're sitting on the floor. They have those foil looking blankets. And, it's just horrifying to see. It reminded me of images from, and I hate to say it, but from the Obama era when we saw facilities like that along the border. And as horrifying as that was, I don't think anybody on the immigration beat or in the advocacy space thought we would see detention centers like that in the interior of the country.
Hmm.
That's a big escalation. Um,
Mm.
but then you look at the other facilities like the Chrome Detention Facility in Florida, LaSalle in Louisiana, a bunch in California. Those are all terrifying places, overcrowded, and people sleeping on top of each other. So you see those are the things we kind of expected to see, right? We didn't
Mm.
expect to see we all expected some violence against Latino communities because we see it, right? We've always seen it. um it never makes the news because it's not like it is right now. This is like they're militarily occupying cities and they're targeting anybody and everybody. And I posted a video yesterday from an article I wrote in 2024, and it shows, it's a propaganda video from Border Patrol, and it shows them they're showing off their crowd control skills. And if you notice, like in the crowd of the protesters, they're actors, but they're holding anti-Trump signs, ACAB signs. So obviously, their training is targeting leftists.
Right.
And you see when you watch that video and you see how they're acting in Minneapolis, for example, or LA or wherever, that's Border Patrol doing that. It's
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's not didn't come as a surprise to find out it was Border Patrol agents that did what they did over the weekend,
Yeah.
because that's what they are. They're if nobody's seen that documentary on HBO Max, the critical incident death at the border,
Yeah.
I
watch it
need to watch it.
Well,
I
because
feel like we're
that shows you how they cover up their crimes.
yeah.
And you see when they shot Renee Good and they tried like manipulating the crime scene. You watch that critical incident at the border and you'll see exactly why and how they do it, because
I,
that's what they're doing.
I
Yeah.
think that's the one that Jen Budd is in,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
She was on the show a week or two ago, and She posted something yesterday that really hit me, which was, people who are screaming that these ICE agents and Border Patrol agents need more training.
Yeah,
This is
no.
the training. They're doing
Yeah.
exactly what they were trained to do. Like you just said, Arturo, they are literally doing what they have been trained to
Yeah.
do, which is to cover up their crimes and commit the most egregious, you know, framings and murders and whatever they want, basically. And they're trained as a team to cover it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you hear these things about our police departments, right? The drop guns that they, drop on a crime scene, they're untraceable, stuff like that. Border Patrol has been known for doing things like that. So when DHS starts showing pictures of the gun that they supposedly took, my first question was that a drop gun? Because
Mm-hmm.
the Sig Sauer P390 or whatever, that's the same weapon they issue to ICE agents. So I was immediately suspicious, immediately. But, it turned out he was a concealed carry owner. He was carrying a weapon, but that doesn't justify executing anybody, right? Not in the United States, that's for sure.
No, that's
And
oh, sorry, go ahead, Arturo.
no,
I want
no,
to cut you off.
I saw Dana Loesch. Remember her from the NRA?
Mm-hmm.
She's making the rounds on the media channels this morning, and she's talking about her whole argument is focused on impeding an investigation. Nowhere in that video was anybody impeding an investigation. Those agents were like 30, 40 feet away before they came at people who were recording them. So
Right.
yeah, it's just the way they're spinning this is ridiculous.
And the dude was literally trying to help a woman up to
Right.
her feet after she had fallen on the ice.
Right. Yeah.
The the ice on the ground, to be clear.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the this moment in time calls for strange bedfellows sometimes. And the one thing giving me a sense of hope yesterday was when I saw that I'm sorry, that the NRA was at odds with Trump and was coming to the defense of Alex Is it Pretty? Is his name? I've only
Right.
seen it written. I haven't heard it pronounced.
I've heard them say Pretty so far. Everyone has said
Pretty,
Pretty.
okay. I like Pretty. We'll say that then. And right, the fact that our very pro-gun president and the party that's backed him, that's been just militant about guns, we've all had to suffer through the ongoing fear of school shootings and mall shootings and movie theater shootings because we had to have our guns on us at all times to rise up if we needed.
Right.
As
Against
180,
tyranny.
right, it's suddenly like, well, he's carrying a gun on the street, so therefore he was a threat. And the NRA was like, back up, sister. You have
Yeah.
a right to have a gun, and that needs to be investigated. I saw the story in The Guardian first, and I was like, the cognitive dissonance of like, I agree with the NRA. I'm hopeful because this fracture is happening, and that there could be like how are the MAGA going to reconcile the fact that the president is telling them if they're carrying a gun, they deserve to be shot, when it's such odds with what this party has been saying, just preaching for decades. It's
Right. And the caveat with the NRA was 10 minutes after they, admonished the administration, they put out another post on Twitter. And, of course, a lot of people went after them for this. I did too. But they started blaming leftists and, targeting, agents and blah, 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 and assaulting agents. And, obviously, I think they were getting pressure from one side
of course
about, look, you're the NRA. How are you going to justify this? So they came out and they were like, this is wrong. But then they probably started getting flack from all the right wingers in the NRA. So they had to come out and say something else. It's like, to be clear, this is the leftist fault, but I mean, that's typical of the NRA. The other gun rights groups, and there are plenty, a lot of them are, even the ones that are trying to blame leftists are like, look, you can't villainize this guy like this. Like, this isn't, because they understand these implications, right? Because, you heard Kash Patel and Kristi Noem saying, who brings a weapon to a protest?
Everyone.
January 6th. Like, I could go back just in the last few years. There's January 6th. There's Kyle Rittenhouse. There's the anti-mask protests, the anti-lockdown protests. I mean, we could go down this list. The Proud Boys at Drag Queen Story Hours with AR-15s.
Right.
Like, who brings guns to a protest? Right wingers, typically.
Right. You guys.
Right.
Right.
So, like, this whole thing, like, every narrative they're putting out there, even this impeding investigations narrative, doesn't hold water whatsoever. And
No.
watching them change narratives constantly says that they're on their heels. And with an administration like the Trump administration, you have to keep them on the defensive, because once they're on the defensive, they can't go on the offensive. They have to
It's
defend themselves. Right. So I think this is the right move.
right. And
If there was ever a time to add pressure, it's now.
right. And they couldn't go back to race. They couldn't, because it was or gender. It was
Right.
a white,
Right.
like normal age, normal looking white man.
Yeah.
Right. Who
Exactly.
everybody says nice things about, right? Like, you haven't been able to find a single person who's been like, he was mean to me in the second grade or whatever. Like, he just seems like a good dude.
Yeah. And, in this situation, this is, at this point, we're beyond the race factor,
Yeah.
At this point, what you have is outright tyranny. You have a government that's going after not just non-white people, but their allies. They're anybody who is against what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can't even film them without them trying to kill you. And I think, with the racial reckoning in 2020, a lot of people learned a lot of things. There just wasn't a follow through.
Yeah.
Had there been, we probably could have drawn more attention to ICE and Border Patrol as part of a broader law enforcement discussion, police brutality type situation. Because, folks like myself, Jen Budd, and, a lot of people at Unicorn Riot, and aside from us, I don't know anybody else who has gone after Border Patrol and ICE like we have. And, trying to expose them and trying to get people to just care, because that's the problem, right? You can tell people about police brutality and they might sit there and say, oh yeah, this is terrifying. This is terrible, terrible. But do they really care beyond that? Does that translate into your votes? And, you gotta, I wish right wingers would start seeing this, because I've been rubbing this in their faces when, they talk about how everything is justified. I'm always telling them, like, remember these words, because they're going to echo when the feds kill one of you. And a lot of times I throw Waco in their face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, remember Waco? Yeah, it can happen. It can happen. And with Waco, yeah, that's a big right wing thing, right? For like extremists, they hang on to that Waco thing. But if you were alive at the time and somewhat of an adult, you'll remember that Waco was terrifying to the whole country, not just conservatives.
Yeah.
Like, the feds were way out of bounds from the beginning. And, that can easily happen again, so to think that it happened, that Waco happened under Clinton and Janet Reno and all them. And now what we're seeing now is happening under Trump. Granted, what Trump is doing is much bigger than Waco, right? It's, I mean, it's just terrifying. But yeah, you got to remind them, like, dude, y'all carry guns to the protest. Like, remember Waco, like, remember the Bundys when they took over the Malheur wildlife refugee place and the FBI shot that old dude in the back and killed him. There was so much outrage from the right wing in that. And, like, we're seeing it again. Like, this is who our feds are. It's just, they've been emboldened by an administration that unleashed them and told them they have immunity. And that's kind of where we are. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded sometimes, but
no. What it made me think is,
this is for.
Have you all seen the video yet out of Maine? So ICE has apparently just rolled into Maine, and they're starting operations in Maine. And there is a video of a woman recording an ICE action just in, like, a neighborhood street. And the ICE agent, one of the ICE agents, goes and very, like, obviously in front of her, goes up to her car. Like, so she's kind of standing here on the street and her car's over this way. And the ICE agent walks past her and goes up to her car and records video of her license plate.
Mm.
And he says, "Now you're in the database."
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "What do you need to record my license plate for? Like, I'm just recording video." And he's like, "Now you're a domestic terrorist. You're on the list." And she's like, "I'm just recording video. It's legal to record video." And he's like, "Yep. And you're a domestic terrorist now." And like, that's where we're at, right? That
Yeah.
they have passed these laws and signed executive orders and done whatever that basically says anything remotely holding law enforcement or ICE or Border Patrol or anybody to account counts as domestic terrorism. You know, the
Yeah.
dude showing up, you know, he was in a store and apparently he walked out of the store, saw this woman needed helped do that, kind of directed traffic for a minute and then died for
Yeah.
trying to help in a moment after he'd like gotten donuts or something. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you know that one of the things I pointed out about that whole database thing is it highlights a lot of, and I hate to keep saying that this is what this country does, but when you look back at gang databases, for example,
mhm.
a lot of people get thrown in there for no reason. If you know some of this was exposed to early this year with the ICE like scorecard when they were trying to justify Kilmar Abrego Garcia being listed as a gang member, and this document leaked, a memo that showed this, you know, on a scale, if a migrant gets 8 points, they're considered a gang member, and
Right.
anything as simple as being associated with somebody who's in a gang. For example, if my brother's in a gang and I live in the same house as him, I'm in a gang database because I associate with a gang member. That ruins a lot of people's lives. You know, the next time you get pulled over for something as simple as rolling through a stop sign and the cop runs your license and it shows you as affiliated with gangs, all of a sudden that escalates the situation.
Right.
There are a lot of people in prison for being associated with gangs who have never been associated with gangs. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia highlights how easily people get thrown in those databases. Now you have the NSPM-7, the National Security Presidential Memorandum, for people who don't know, where they classify anti-Americanism, anti-Christianism, Antifa, anything like that as domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
And
We saw the list and we're all 7.
Right.
Right.
Like, you know,
right.
yeah.
I believe in the gay agenda.
Right. And they, yeah, the gay
There we
agenda is so
go.
funny. The gay agenda kills me to this day.
Right.
But
who would have known advocating for brunch after a fun night out
Right.
dancing would get you classified as a domestic terrorist?
Yeah, you know what's funny is because it was freezing here last night and the night before, and there's ice everywhere. And you know, I follow a lot of gay creators from here in the Houston area. You know, Montrose is our huge gay community, always has been.
Yeah.
And one of the bartenders is posting videos because he kept getting phone calls about whether the bar is going to be open. And he was like, you know, he's talking about, you know, the gays, ICE or not, we're going to the bar. So he's like, if I'm going to open the bar, you guys better come to the bar. And I was just like laughing, like everybody's at home, nobody's doing anything.
Right.
And then he's like, but the gays, we're going to the bar. And
Right. The gays are like, I need a place to go drink and dance.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. He's like, yeah, you could drink at home all you want, but you don't have boys dancing on the table. And he starts going down this list, and I just started laughing. I was like, oh my God, you guys are nuts.
Yeah.
And like, I don't understand why people have a problem with that. That's just people having fun, dude. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
You know who can walk on streets covered with sheets of ice? Drag queens.
Yeah, oh, for sure. For sure. You know, like
you learn to teeter on those heels, you can handle anything.
Right. You could.
You know,
I guarantee your drag queens could walk down sheets of ice in those high heels, and they would be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of us are breaking our necks, falling downstairs. Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of skill to being a drag queen, man. Like I've been a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race forever, and like what amazes me is watching men be able to do all the little things, right? Like I would poke my eye out, you know what I mean? Like I would break my neck in heels. Like I can't do half the stuff they do, and it's just amazing to me. And I think it's awesome. I love it. I think it's hilarious. You know, the drag queens are funny. That's all there
I
is
love
to it.
drag queen. I love
Yeah.
drag.
Yeah. Drag's
Drag is
hilarious.
always a good time.
Yeah.
Lawrence, I'm gonna ask you a technical question and put you on the spot of within StreamYard, would you be able to show a video clip off of Substack while we're in this chat to screen share? Because there is a video, and if not, I'll just share the link and talk about it.
Yeah, share the link because we would have had to have downloaded the video first. We can't just
Got
sort
it.
of natively share. I mean, we could probably screen share, but it would be easier if we had downloaded the video first
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
uploaded it to StreamYard.
a spontaneous call. Let me grab this link. This is going back to Alex's murder. There have been a lot of hot takes, but this is one of the ones I saw yesterday that was really clarifying for me. And the handle is CFH Unfiltered. And I think he is a former sniper. Yeah, he's a combat vet,
Yeah. I know that.
ex-sniper,
Yeah.
left-leaning dad. Yeah. And he shared a video that was an analysis of the shooting. I'm going to put the link here in the chat. I know if you're on mobile, it's hard to find it. But if you go to CFH Unfiltered, he posted this a couple days ago, so right after, and it is trigger warning, like literally, this is you're watching a murder. So you don't have to watch this if you don't want to. But his hypothesis, and it very much looks accurate when you watch this, is that there were 7 men who ganged up on Alex
Mm-hmm.
in the moments before his death. And you can see there's one of them in a gray hoodie as they're beating him up, frisking him. He grabs Alex Preddy's gun out of the holster or waistband or wherever it was on his person. And as
Mm-hmm.
he's pulling up with it, he's such an incompetent goon that he discharges the gun. It shoots. He doesn't hit anything or anybody, but the gun goes off, and then you hear all the bullets that go off that kill Alex Preddy. And so this CFH, I don't know his actual name, is raging that he's like the incompetence of this barely trained, angry, trigger happy, like just nincompoop, not
Yeah.
knowing how to handle the weapon he confiscated.
And they
Setting
should.
that weapon off led to the death because the rest of them just in the moment shoot. They all open fire on
It
his body at point blank range.
honestly made me wonder. I saw that, and what it made me wonder is, was it an accident, or did he need to, kind of to Arturo's earlier point about how they are trained to make it look like, right? They
Could
needed
be.
to have Alex's weapon fired, right? Like it forensically, it should have, show that it was recently fired if they were going to try to frame him as being, the person who shot first, which if there weren't video, almost certainly they would have said that. And so, yeah, I'm not sure that it was incompetence because he fires it down at the ground, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was, they saw there was a gun.
Oh God.
He removed it. Somebody yelled gun and he fired it at the ground. And then, Dana, you're right. Then there are like 9 additional gunshots at Alex, including after he's clearly dead already and lying in the street.
Yep.
And so, I was like, well, fuck. I honestly think they fired it intentionally so that they could be like, well, he had a gun and he fired it first.
Yeah.
Occam's razor, was it more likely that they're so untrained and incompetent that the gun popped off and everyone freaked out and shot him? Or are they super trained? It's not funny. I don't even know what Occam's razor is on that one. Are they wildly incompetent or are they frightfully competent?
Right.
But either way, it's captured. And this video is interesting because he slows it down and zooms in, because my untrained eye, it just saw chaos. But watching what he's showing slowed down and telling you which person to look at when, it's quite clear that that's what happened. That gun goes off first and then they all go off.
Right. The first thing I noticed watching the video was that he was disarmed. That was one of the first things I noticed. And I'm like, why is nobody pointing this out? So I was like, guys, look, they disarmed him. Like, here's the guy.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things about that gun that come into question. I'm a gun owner, right? I like to go to the gun range and shoot. I have several guns. I like the Sig Sauer P390. I don't own one because it has a tendency to misfire. A lot of them don't have a safety either. I don't want that anywhere near my house. That's a dangerous weapon. Why they issue that to ICE agents is beyond me, but that could be part of it. It misfires. It has a history of misfires. No, it's a dangerous weapon. So, when they took the gun, it could have, being just 100% honest, I don't doubt that maybe it was intentional that he fired that gun, but it could have misfired.
Mhm.
It does have some technical issues. But at the end of the day, it's, again, we get to this point of irrelevance, right? Because they shot
Right.
an unarmed man. They came at him from a distance.
Right.
They were the aggressors. Had
Yeah.
they left him alone directing traffic and filming, none of this would have happened.
Yep.
If they didn't approach him, if they didn't come to him, if they didn't start assaulting a woman right in front of his face, none of this would have happened.
Yep.
And that's where the Trump administration ignores that part, and they talk about impeding investigation. Oh, he had a gun. None of that is relevant. None of that is relevant because the escalation began with the agents. So at this point, anybody justifying this, I just call them bootlickers. Like, how's that leather taste? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because it's, a lot of times I'm like, what flavor is that leather? Do you need some hot sauce with your leather? It's just ridiculous that these people are justifying this in any way. Again, not like the Fed's never targeted conservatives before. They've probably been targeted more than anyone else by federal authorities. Probably been killed more than anyone else by federal authorities. And it's just beyond me that these people are trying to justify this in any way. I saw somebody in the comments ask me if I'm in Texas. I am. If I know about the Dilley Detention Center, I do. It's not a good place, not a nice place. There's been a lot of big protests inside the facility lately. And a lot of it has to do with what we talked about earlier, the overcrowded conditions, lack of food, lack of clean water, lack of, hygienic type of supplies, showers, beds, all that stuff. They just don't have it. And it's a family detention center. And when I lived in Central Texas, this is when I really, really started getting in on ICE. I started digging into ICE. I was still doing government contracting work, but there was a family detention center 3 miles from our house, the T. Don Hutto facility. And it was mostly for women and girls and, young boys on occasion. And this was during Obama, and there was a lot of sexual assault, allegations of rape by the agents and stuff like that. Turned out to be true. And there's a pastor in Texas that was leading a lot of protests at the facility, and they inevitably shut it down because it was such a problematic facility. It was one of those situations where it was just so corrupt. You can't just retrain your way out of it. You have to just shut it down, start over. And a few years later, they reopened it and it's in use today, but it's just for women. They don't do families at the T. Don Hutto facility, but sexual assault in these detention centers is a big problem. Rape, particularly against children. These are all huge problems. Assaults. They have what Latinos or immigrants be calling the freezer in Spanish, and it's a holding cell, like a holding tank, like the drunk tank at your jail. It's a huge room, and they keep it freezing in there, and they don't give you hardly anything to keep yourself warm. There's a lot of inhumanity from the minute somebody turns themselves into Border Patrol to the time they're let go, whether that's either deported or released into the country. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't talk about. And a lot of it has to do with Border Patrol agents and ICE, the same people committing all this violence on our streets.
Yeah.
And, you have to wonder if all the Border Patrol agents are on our streets, who's at the border?
Right.
And, they keep saying, oh, lowest numbers in decades at the border. And mine and Jen Bud's assessment of that is because you're not catching anybody. You know, under Trump, they talked a lot about known gotaways. Right now, Jen and I are talking a lot about the unknown gotaways because nobody's there. You have the military, right? You have a striker brigade, 3,500 troops at the border. But you know, there's so many ways to get through that you can't cover that with even with the military. And you know, we have a lot of technology at the border, right? So you don't need 40,000 border patrol agents. You have all this surveillance equipment everywhere. You could track people as they're coming through, and it's so much easier. But at the end of the day, there's still routes in very remote areas that people get through, and unfortunately, that's where people die the most because it's the hardest terrain to get through, mountains and desert and things like that. And it's just the enforcement first approach opens the door to tons of inhumanity.
Yeah.
If you make it harder to cross the border and when you claim asylum, you cross the border, you turn yourself into border patrol agents, right? That's a legal process. That's not illegal at all. If you don't turn yourself in, or if you run, then you committed a crime, right?
Right.
When you take that away, you're forcing people to go through more difficult and more dangerous terrain. And, there's been assessments that there's tens of thousands of dead people that haven't been found. Some people go so far as hundreds of thousands of people that haven't been found along the border over decades. And that's because of these enforcement only approaches and the inhumanity that people face if they get caught. So they try not to.
Yeah.
And that just complicates the situation. We started seeing it a lot under Biden when he made asylum harder. People were going through the snow. A lot of them got abandoned out there. Border Patrol wouldn't go rescue them. Like we saw a lot of that. Jen Budd brought that up. And like, I don't know, it all translates to what we're seeing on our streets. It's all connected through the same sort of, Christo-fascism type of Christian white nationalism, whatever.
Arturo, I just want to point out that you wrote a really excellent article recently within the last couple of days that you're kind of talking about it right now, right?
Yeah.
Big pieces
the mass
of it.
deportation economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've got the link that we could put in the chat. And I was kind of thinking, we could talk about your article, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the article that I wrote yesterday about kind of what we can do next.
Sorry for being long.
But keep going, because a thing that you said earlier, right? We were talking about the databases, and you talk about in your article these fusion centers, right? Which is where the kind of data gets aggregated, I think, at a state level. Can you kind of explain to the audience what's going on there?
Yeah, so fusion centers are, so Homeland Security was created after 9/11, and there was all this talk about how intelligence agencies didn't communicate with each other, and that's why we couldn't prevent 9/11. It's all nonsense. But they created fusion centers after Homeland Security was created in order to create like a data sharing, intelligence sharing network.
Mm-hmm.
One that conveniently some intelligence agencies don't participate in because they're dealing with classified type of information, the CIA being one of those. But basically every federal agency, the DEA, the ATF, ICE, all of them, FBI, and then all your local and state police departments all share information through these fusion centers. ICE collects a lot of data from private companies. So for example, when Thomson Reuters had their CLEAR database, ICE was able to get the utility records for 218 million people in the United States. So they have access to your utility records. Before the Real ID and facial recognition, they had access to the driver's license data of 3 out of 4 Americans. They buy data from Amazon. That same type of data that was purchased from Amazon, for example, is the kind of data that was used against Breonna Taylor that led to her death. Okay. Fusion centers share that data between federal agencies and local cops and vice versa. In essence, a fusion center renders most sanctuary city policies useless because ICE doesn't have to petition local and state law enforcement agencies to say, hey, is this person in your jail? They can just look it up. And if they want to go get them, they can. So when a city says that they're a sanctuary city and they're not going to participate in federal government type stuff, they're drawing a line. The 10th Amendment clarifies this line between federal and state powers in law enforcement. They're drawing that line. Sure, you have access to this information, but don't ask us to hold a guy who's in here for a traffic ticket, because you on a civil offense, because most immigration offenses are civil penalties. A county jail does not hold people on civil penalties. In some ways that's illegal, right? Like, you can't throw someone in prison for civil penalties unless there's some sort of personal damage.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then in that sense, that's a crime. But, so yeah, when it comes to sanctuary city policies and all this rhetoric that they're throwing out there right now, that this whole, what do you call it? This enforcement action in Minneapolis is because of its sanctuary city policies. It's all bull. They know who they're looking for. They know where they're at. The reason why Border Patrol is attacking citizens is because that's what they've been wanting to do this whole time, and the White House is letting them do it.
Yeah.
So, when you see 20 and 30 Border Patrol agents targeting protesters, you have to really wonder, are you going to do your job, which is like find undocumented immigrants that are, criminals or whatever? Or are you just going to beat up people? Because, you're only there for 8 hours a day. Go do your job. Leave the people alone. And these, to go back to the fusion centers, it does, like, sanctuary city, for example, in Texas, Harris County Jail, right? We're a pretty liberal city, pretty progressive. We don't have any 287G agreements. Well, we do now because they're required by Texas law, but we didn't ever have them before.
What is that? What is the 287G?
287G agreement is when law enforcement signs up to do immigration enforcement actions under ICE's authority. There's 3 different models. There's the jail model where, you hold migrants on migrant detainers. There's the enforcement model where you go out and, help ICE do enforcement. And then there's the third one is for the sheriff's department, for the sheriff himself. And basically, a 287G agreement gives local and state agencies federal dollars to hire more cops. And when you look at how that's funded, police departments will get, under Trump, police departments will get $100,000 for a vehicle. It pays for an officer's salary and all their benefits. It pays for basically everything for a new officer. So it allows police departments to add more cops basically for free on the federal dollar instead of the local dollar. And that's, to me, is constitutionally ambiguous right there, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You're really blurring the line in that 10th Amendment,
Yep.
Which forbids federal police forces. So, yeah, so we never had a 287G agreement to, the jail to hold people in detention, but the Harris County Jail, despite constantly being overcrowded and people dying in it constantly, holds roughly 2,000 migrants on ICE detainers, and their stay is roughly on average about 6 months, and they rotate them through so frequently that the population stays at 2,000 migrants. I reported on the county jail a couple of years ago about a lot of deaths in there. And one of the things that people overlook is by holding 2,000 migrants in our county jail has led to overcrowding conditions. And now the city of Houston and Harris County pay tens of millions of dollars to prisons in Louisiana to hold county detainees in another state.
Crazy.
So, right. And we're not getting any funding for that because there's no 287G agreements. See what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there doesn't always have to be these agreements. Some departments voluntarily work with ICE,
right,
like
at
this,
the detriment to their own community.
Right. And it's costing Houston and Harris County taxpayers tens of millions every year, and it never gets brought up. It never, that part never gets brought up. So yeah, it's there's a whole economy, like that's what that article is about. There's a whole economy built on mass deportations. It's just like the prison system. It's they call them incarceration economies, but in the case of mass deportations, it's incarceration, it's inhumanity, it's abuse, it's brutality, it's sexual assaults, it's so many things. And there's when you consider DHS has over 200,000 employees by itself, there's an economy there, right? You have, and DHS, that includes all the agencies, ICE and all that stuff. And then, you have all the employment in all these other private agencies that provide services to ICE. And, a lot of people talk about the Palantirs and, AI recognition, facial recognition,
Right.
all
Flock
that stuff.
cameras.
But then,
Yeah.
there's Motorola, there's AT&T, there's Microsoft. There's so many companies that provide tactical infrastructure. And, that stuff's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So, you're talking about, hundreds of thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of salaries that people depend on. These things are not easy to get rid of once you put them there.
Right.
Because we saw what happened when Trump let go of a couple 100,000 government employees, right? Mostly Black women suffered the biggest out of that. It did a lot of damage to the government, put a lot of people in a really precarious position economically. If you do that here, it's the same thing. So you have to be able to replace those jobs with something. If you try to cut this mass deportation economy down. But when you consider that this has been the case since 9/11, since the Patriot Act, since the Homeland Security Act, it was like that under Obama. It was like that under Bush. It was like that under Trump, then Biden, then Trump. Like this is our system. This is what was created under Bill Clinton, in the 90s, and then expanded on by Bush. So like this is what we built. And unless you reform the entire system, which would include abolishing a lot of agencies, it needs to include abolishing a lot of agencies. It's just not going to change. It's just such an insurmountable task.
It's
to try to
interesting how our articles fit together, right? Because
right.
Part of what I propose in my article is we really need to draw a line in the sand here. Like
we do.
And I propose a couple of different ways that we can do that, kind of escalating in action. And, towards the end, like in my list, 6 and 7 are basically starting to withhold money and patronage to the companies that you just named, right? Like anybody who is
6, 7.
Right,
I
6,
was just
7,
going to say
6,
that, but I'm like,
7.
Lawrence, you just said I've been hanging out with my
My
teenagers.
grandson's 5. He's 6, 7.
Honestly, like I said it, and I was like,
I'm sorry.
Oh fuck, I just said that, and then I was like, I'm gonna pretend, So
sorry.
But yeah, it like the idea is that we need to start kind of with certain actions and see certain responses from our elected leaders, and if we don't get those actions, then we need to start doing things like targeted sector strikes in the economy, like healthcare or transport, and then a general strike, and then starting to boycott certain companies. And part of what I'm proposing is let's find companies like Microsoft, or most consumers don't have connections to Palantir, right? But lots of consumers have connections to Microsoft or Amazon. And if a company is supporting the infrastructure that you outline, Arturo, the infrastructure that is being used by these agencies to create this monster, essentially, that we're now fighting, then we need to boycott those companies. And I know that shit is going to be hard, and there's going to be an economic impact, but up to, and including kind of at the end of my list, I'm like, if it comes down to it, we should manufacture a run on the banks. We should say everyone's going to go to the goddamn bank and pull out all their money on the same day. Let's crash the fucking economy, and
at this point,
I'm not saying start there by any stretch of the imagination, but we can we do have the power, not just with our votes, but with money and with labor. If we all stop working, if we all stop spending, if we pull our money out of the banks, we can change the system. They have to listen to us if we do that. It will literally collapse the global economy, and I think everything is on the table at this point.
Yeah.
Everything that is peaceful and nonviolent is on the table.
What would bring everybody to their knees, Lawrence? Target the Super Bowl. Pull the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, one of the things on my list is
bring Americans to the ground.
Yeah. I mean, and the World Cup, right? Like,
right. I was going to say that.
The
That's
World
coming
Cup is
here.
coming to the U.S. and
Coming here to
you know,
Seattle.
just say every American city that's got a World Cup, we're boycotting it. It's being boycotted. We're going to protest it. Nonviolent protests, massive nonviolent protests in front of the World Cup, so that every country in the world sees that America is rebelling against this government that has lost its legitimacy, because governments only rule with the consent of the governed. That is literally written into our founding documents. And if we don't give our consent, if we withdraw our consent, it's just like on a date, baby. No means no.
Yeah.
Withdrawn consent means go no further. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You're done.
Yeah. You know, and there's a lot of calls for, you know, boycotting the US during the World Cup and you know, all these things. And what's crazy is on this note, I mentioned this morning because I saw a video on Twitter about these Italian journalists in Minneapolis got accosted by ICE agents and, you know, had their windows smashed, and ICE agents over there threatening them. And they're like, dude, we're Italian media. What the hell? And, you know, I started backing off. But that footage, when it gets back to Italy, is going to be all over Europe. That's going to be top news because it happened to white people, to Italians, right? Like that's going to be everywhere. And that's going to start something. I predict it will in Europe. And it sends a message, just like with ICE killing white folks. And now they're targeting Italian journalists and all these things. We are beyond this race factor. We are facing actual tyranny. And I don't know why anybody would want to come to the US for the World Cup after seeing what happened to those Italians, because it puts the World Cup into that context.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't even be Italian in the US without ICE messing with you. That's going to scare a lot of people. It really is.
Yeah.
I can't fathom flying here as a non-US
I
citizen
know.
right now, like coming here. It will be interesting because I'm just thinking this through, that anyone flying to the US to attend FIFA soccer has to be quite wealthy, right? This is not a sport for the common man, no matter where you're from. And people are going to be rowdy, they're going to be drinking, they're going to be reveling, and they're going to be out. And ICE isn't going to be able to tell who is, you know, someone who lives here and someone who's visiting. They're going to have to be some very wealthy brown people who get tossed into ICE facilities or shot and killed during the FIFA games, during the revelry around the FIFA games, right? Like, I don't see how that won't happen. I don't know all the cities. I'm not into. I'm like the least sportsy person you could meet.
It's
I
not
know
Minneapolis. I already looked, but you know,
it's not.
like
But it is Seattle. It is Seattle.
Yeah.
They're coming here.
Seattle and Vancouver, and you know,
and where else?
There are a lot of there's a couple of southern cities. I looked it up the other day. You know, trying to see if like Chicago or Portland or Minneapolis were on the list, and they're not.
Houston is. I mean, we have
Houston is on the list.
Soccer, soccer's huge here.
Yeah, you know,
so massive protests.
FIFA is a massively corrupt organization, right?
Right.
And I think there's kind of no better sort of target than let's boycott and let's demonstrate in front of the World Cup. You know, like obviously we all know soccer, football, as the rest of the world knows it, is beloved. And if we can get images out there of Americans protesting our own government in front of these games, then, you know, we should get those images out there. And Dana, you're absolutely right. Like, FIFA is going to be in a world of hurt. We will be in a world of hurt if a single foreign national is arrested or assaulted or, God forbid, killed while they're on American soil because ICE and Border Patrol don't know how to differentiate.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing, I just thought of this for like a city like ours, where, you know, we're expecting, I don't know, billions of dollars worth of revenue for the city. You know, what happens if you boycott FIFA? What happens to all the investments the city put in? that's going to pressure the city and the state,
Exactly.
to do something as well. Is it going to hurt me as someone who lives in Houston and Harris County? Probably.
Yeah.
Is it necessary? Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't mind feeling the pain, for the right thing.
Well, and that exactly, Arturo. Like I say in the article that, if we get to the point where we have to do something huge, like pull our money out of banks,
Oh my
we
God.
know
Yeah,
we're crashing the economy. We know it's going to hurt people. It's going to hurt millions of people. I
yeah,
would rather figure out how to suffer together in the short term
yeah.
than live my life as a fucking slave on my knees to an authoritarian government.
I heard
Like,
that.
you know, like,
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like, there is such a thing as like, bloodless revolution, right? Where you can have a revolution without any kind of,
right.
but there's always going to be pain. There's always
Yeah.
going to be pain. And revolutions aren't easy. And, we're getting to that point. I keep thinking to myself, and real quick, it's funny when you mention football, because when I'm speaking Spanish, soccer's football, but when I'm speaking English, it's soccer. It's
Right.
it's a weird thing with me, man. I don't know what the hell.
You live the duality.
Yeah, it's so weird. But forgot what I was gonna say. But no, we're just revolution isn't painless, right? We have to suffer through some things. And like I keep thinking to this point of, like, you see authoritarian regimes, right? Like you see, I hate to bring up the IDF, but you see the IDF, right? As long as they can shoot and kill people without being shot at, they're gonna keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not advocating for shooting back, because at the first time you fire somebody, you're the terrorist, just like in Israel, right? You defend yourself, you're going to be the bad guy. And you can already see it, that if you are one to shoot back, both sides of the aisle are going to condemn you for that.
Yep.
And I don't know how many people have to get shot in the face before we realize, like, dude, something has to happen. But that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is, if that gun, for example, went off and misfired, that's all it takes, right?
Yep.
You see the guy that's standing there with an AR-15. This is my block. These are my people. White guy, whatever. I get that. I totally understand where he's coming from, in that sense. But if an accidental misfire happens, that could be the start of something very ugly. Maybe it's ice shoots around into the ground, and all of a sudden, you have a firefight.
Right.
It's always that first round that starts stuff, and 9 times out of 10, that first round is fired by mistake.
Right.
So yeah, it scares me where we're at,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are having this thought, like, look, if we don't fight back, they're just not going to stop. And in a sense, that's true. And I don't know that any legislation reforms or any of these things that Democrats are talking about is going to matter, because you're talking about agencies that are lawless. They don't care about the law now. They're not going to care about a new one. It's just we're in a really bad time, and it's really scary. And I hate to end the show on a note like this, but it's just, I don't know what else to say or what else to do. I'm just so horrified by what we saw this weekend.
Yeah. I
And
think we all are.
Same.
right, and to be able to push back and fight back against this whole system that has an economy and all these things, and I don't know. Again, direct action, right? Like what you were suggesting, Lawrence. I think collective action could make a big difference. For example, if you could convince Amazon to stop providing services, that the Amazon Web Services would collapse ICE's information databases, because that's what they rely on. If Amazon decided to pull out tomorrow, ICE would be screwed in that sense. That could hurt really bad. It could hurt DHS really bad. Can you convince Amazon to do that? I don't know. There's billions of dollars there, So it's us versus money. And that's basically what it boils down to.
Right.
In this situation.
I'm
And
now curious
ultimately,
about.
we do have the money. We do.
Yeah, we do.
We have the spending power. If we stop spending, if we pull our money out of banks, we do. And again, it's going to be painful. If you go to people and say, hey, I need you to pull, the $500,000 in your 401k that you've been saving your entire life out to show, Bank of America, teach Bank of America a lesson. People are going to be like, Jesus Christ, I can't do that.
Right.
What are we
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, some people were willing to sacrifice their lives. So,
Right. People are
you know,
literally losing their lives.
yeah. So,
I'm curious about protests at the FIFA games because I'm looking. There's
FIFA.
FIFA. Sorry, see, you can tell I'm not a sports person. March 28th through June 25th. So there are only 7 games over 3 months. It's pretty
Yeah.
spread out. The Seattle one is second to last, June 19th. Lumen Field tickets are thousands each. I just looked. There are
Yeah.
hardly any left. This is a playground for the uber wealthy.
Right.
Yeah.
And
these are there's a lot of sex trafficking that happens at these events too, for the wealthy people. This is for the people who can afford it. That they do devious shit behind the scenes.
The first two are in Atlanta. It's interesting. They all have corporate sponsors for their stadiums. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, first two, and then Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Boy, I need to cancel my Bank of America card. They're the ones who sponsored that shitty our feminist bad TV show with Barry Weiss.
Oh my God.
Soldier Field, I don't think that's a company in Chicago.
No.
SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Lumen Field in Seattle, and then SoFi in Inglewood again for the last one.
Yeah. I think I heard that they were supposed to. Bless you. They were supposed to remove the corporate names off of those stadiums for FIFA because because they don't have agreements with FIFA. Right. And I know that's an issue here with our stadium. Our football stadium is NRG Stadium, and they're supposed to be taking all that stuff off of it. So we'll see.
They have it on the ticketing site. So
yeah. So we'll see how that works out. But
right. Super cheery today, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to be, right? It's really hard to be. We can laugh, and we should laugh as much as possible because that's how we get through things.
Yeah.
When you laugh in the face of adversity, you're doing it right.
Call your Congress people today, folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think the first step is the Senate needs to block any additional funding for ICE. I think they're on the right track.
Right.
I think they're on the right track there. I think what they're asking for, negotiating wise, isn't enough because they're not even asking for the additional training or the body cams anymore. They're talking about they're asking for ICE to allow local and state agencies to investigate crime scenes, and no masks, I believe, and that's pretty much it.
So what I put in my article is the first 2 steps in my mind are we need an independent investigation into this shooting and all other shootings that have occurred, right? With prosecutorial authority. Like if they find a crime, they need to be able to prosecute it. And then the second step is an immediate end to this enforcement action. Any enforcement action currently in play needs to stop immediately. As ICE and Border Patrol demobilize from those, they cannot bring weapons. They don't need weapons to do their job. If they're just doing, roundup of, if they're literally looking for folks who are, here illegally, you don't need a weapon for that. If you need a weapon, partner with the police department to come back you up, right? And they all have to wear the body cams because they don't have no body cams. They've got a fucking $130 billion. They've got body cams already. The ones that they've got, they need to wear. And, and then we need to really dig into restructuring Homeland Security and the agencies exactly like you've been talking about, Arturo.
Yeah, I've actually seen some conservative articles, through the years where they suggest getting rid of DHS and putting something else in its place. I mean, I'm of the mind that we don't really need it. The Coast Guard can go do what Coast Guard does without Homeland Security. Secret Service can do what it does without Homeland Security. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. That used to be INS, right? Like they can process, applications and visas and green cards just fine without DHS. You don't really need DHS. It's a bloated, agency that costs us billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars a year. Like you can eradicate poverty or end homelessness with that money, or provide everybody with health care for
Right.
that kind of money. And we're wasting it on an agency that really serves no purpose. If your argument is we need fusion centers, okay, well, you can have fusion centers without Homeland Security. I don't think we need fusion centers. I don't think our personal information should be purchasable, by the government without a warrant. But that's their loophole. That's how they get information on us without warrants, is they buy it because it's technically publicly available. So yeah, I don't know. I think you can get rid of DHS tomorrow, and I don't think anybody would notice. I really don't think anybody would notice.
Well, I don't want to freak you guys out, but somebody in our YouTube comments apparently just reported us for terrorism. So,
okay, all right. Well,
I'm not on our YouTube. We have someone actually listening on YouTube. I'm kind of excited.
I was gonna say we had 10 people, but I actually just banned 5 of them because they were assholes.
That's funny.
We've got 5 nice people listening on YouTube.
Yeah,
people.
I mean,
except
we're
the one
probably,
who tried to get us banned for terrorism.
Yeah,
I'm not saying hi to you.
Right.
But no, like you said, we were, all of the bullet points in the NSPM 7, and we're probably already on a list. If that's the case, just go ahead and add me to another one. I'm pretty sure I'm on a lot of lists, and all the times that I've had to communicate with like State Department and stuff like that, the questions I ask, I send that email. I'm like, well, that just got me put on a list. So go ahead, add it to the, what did we say? Nothing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
What did we say? That Americans have economic power to get our government to comply with not being murderous thugs? Yeah. Crazy.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I've had people tag the FBI on me on Twitter and stuff, and I just laugh. I'm like, okay, dude, like they don't have better shit to do. But yeah, it's just dumb. I've seen, we've seen the videos too of Secret Service showing up at people's house asking about social media posts, and that one, the Miami Beach mayor sent somebody from the Miami Beach Sheriff's Department to question somebody about their social media post, and like their social media post was nothing. It was just like saying, oh, look, our mayor is I think he was saying that the mayor was a Zionist or pro-Israel or something like that, but it wasn't anything crazy. And the cops showed up at her door, and I was just like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy how even local officials are starting to see how Trump is weaponizing law enforcement. And I feel like in some places they're doing it too. And that's the problem with somebody like Trump, is he sets an example, gives people ideas, and then they start doing it too.
Yeah.
Before you know it, everybody's a collaborator.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
And on that note,
yeah, guys,
Arturo, we're really grateful that you spent time with us today.
Me too, man. I'm glad you guys, I like hanging out with y'all. I think y'all's relationship is great. It's cool. Like y'all been best friends since y'all were little, and
yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, you're one of us now, man. You've been on the show twice. Like you're a great hang. You're in the circle forever.
Yeah. That's like, when people visit my house, if they've been here more than twice, where the cups are, don't ask.
right.
Right.
You've been here. Yeah.
You can go get yourself, go get yourself a snack, pick your feet up. That's how it feels having you here, Arturo. Thank you so much for joining us again. And
if we could ask the folks in the chat Arturo's article is really magnificent. You should read it. You will learn something, I promise, because I know I did. So please go read and restack and like and share Arturo's article. And if you could do the same for mine, I think we need to all learn about what we are dealing with, and then we need to come up with a plan for how to push back peacefully and nonviolently against what is happening in this country.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I think, the peaceful protest, the idea behind it is still a solid one, because if you're peacefully protesting and violence happens, you see who does it, and it's usually the state. So, that still carries a lot of weight, a lot more than people think. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And
All
on
right,
that
guys.
happy note,
All
go
right,
forth
guys.
with your days, whatever.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow. Love you, mean it.
All right. Love you. Goodbye. Mwah.
Bye.